Welcome to East Coast DNA. Today's episode, we're featuring a festival in Antigonish, Antigonight, and we have Marita here today to talk to us about that. So, what can you tell us about this festival?
So, Antigonight is an outdoor art festival. It's been happening in Antigonish, Nova Scotia since 2010, so for a while. And it happens every year in September. This year it's happening September 13th and 14th, which I think is a great time because we get the students back in town and kids are back in school, and there's some lingering tourists and the community's back in town. So there's something for everybody, and it's kind of a nice transition from summer to fall. And we have a bunch of different art activities for people to enjoy.
And now I'm kind of basing this on my own experience being like at my local one in Pictou County. So I know that over the years, I imagine you would have had a similar kind of trajectory where you'd have a lot of different stations set up with different local artists to offer either a display of their creations or maybe even that they're selling some artwork. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I did find locally we've had a lot of musicians incorporated over the years, then it seems to have increased where it's probably these days almost like 50% of it is music. And I'm curious where we have a music centered podcast too. We like to dip into the other art, so I was really happy to hear from you guys. But I'm curious, what do you have on the music end? Because I did read the press release. I know that there is music involved, and I've been to your Instagram channel and I see that you've advertised a lot of the different artists. But for the music fans out there, what do you have going on during your event?
During our event, we don't have as much music as we do have kind of sound and performance. We have a really great circus performance that's kind of cosmic themed, it's kind of expanding on the theme. And we have a guided listening session of deep sea ocean sounds by David Barclay, who's actually a professor at Dalhousie's Department of Oceanography, and he's kind of got his foot in like the ambient noise music scene, and so he's kind of blending like ocean sounds with music, I guess, or like kind of sound art. So I think that's going to be a little bit on the music side, but it's kind of, it's
It,
more.
the soundscape creation, I know, is something that a few of the artists I've had on are quite passionate about. So I'm sure that you'll have a lot of people that want to come out and experience that firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
is the concept of having interactive exhibits kind of priority, because I do see that that seems to be highlighted, that you have things like what you just described, but I haven't been to your festival yet, which shame on me. I'm not that far away, but is that more of the focus to have the public be able to interact with the art itself?
Yeah, I think that having interactive artworks is kind of what draws people in and makes people stay too. Because, if you just walk through and take a look and then, there's not much to stay for. But one of my favorite projects that we're having this year is it's kind of inspired by the gym parachute that people love during school times.
Mhm.
And it's an artist duo, Jacinte Armstrong is a choreographer and Kim Morgan is an artist, and they came together to make this kind of um gym parachute that mimics the motion of a diaphragm to kind of
Oh,
like
cool.
think about the breath and air. And so I think that will be really fun. Like kids love it, of course, but I feel like adults too, like the gym parachute is always something that you want to get your hands on. And we have a couple of kind of drop-in workshops too. We have a cedar weaving workshop and a paper lantern making workshop. And this year we're also going to do a community meal for people to just stop by and have a snack. It's going to be a meal made with all local ingredients from um local farmers in Antigonish County to kind of spotlight them and bring people closer to the food production that's happening right in their community.
That's a cool idea. Now,
Mhm.
for anyone that's not familiar with the festival already, we do know when it is. We know it's in Antigonish, but where would people find the actual event once they get to Antigonish?
So usually it's on Main Street in Antigonish, but this year it's kind of, if you know Antigonish, it's kind of behind Main Street and kind of the parking lot between the library and the Shoppers Drug Mart and Piper's Pub, and like kind of between the street and the river. So we're kind of all together, and I think it will be nice for people to just wander in from different directions, and then you can kind of wander through and just stumble upon different projects. It's not going to be hard to miss.
And now the whole concept for something like this too is you are trying to have it as like an evening activity.
Yeah, it's gonna happen from I believe 7 to 10, if I have that correct. Yeah, it's an evening activity. There's like a kind of social happening the night before. I think it's also in the evening, but um yeah, it's an evening activity kind of because it's called Antigonight After Dark. So yeah.
And now, is that something that you've had all along as the theme? Is it just for the evening thing? And then on top of that, do you have another theme annually? Because I do know you have kind of an elemental theme to this year's event.
Yeah, this year's theme is sense, fire, water, earth, air. And I picked this theme to kind of talk about um how we can interact with like the natural elements in the world around us. So all the projects are kind of loosely surrounded by the theme, but also, anything connect to that. And we try to pick projects that kind of help you experience art through different senses, which is nice for accessibility too. So it's like accessible for people with all kinds of abilities, but also it just makes it more exciting if you have something to look at and then something to taste and then something to listen to, kind of to to give it a more interesting texture or so.
And now, if people wanted to find out more about what's happening or to follow you throughout the year, because it is an annual event, where
Mhm.
would you send people? Like I have mentioned that you have an Instagram account. So where
Yeah.
would you send people?
Yeah, we have an Instagram account. I think that's probably the easiest way. Our Instagram is Antigonight Fest, and there's also a Facebook page, which is Antigonight Art After Dark Festival. But if you just type in Antigonight, I'm sure it will come up anywhere.
Perfect. And now it's a free event for the public.
Yes, that's right. It's completely free.
How can people contribute towards these people's artistic endeavors if they wanted to financially contribute? Is there something involved with the festival, or do you recommend that they follow the artists themselves online?
The best way definitely is to follow the artists themselves because Indigo Night is a nonprofit, so it's also in our mandate. We are not going to deal with money during the festival. It's open,
Mhm.
it's free for everybody. But absolutely, people are welcome to get in touch with the artists. This is also a great way to meet the artists firsthand because they're all there. So you can ask them questions and talk to them and get their contact information or their social media and everything. That's the best way to support the artists.
And now, kind of to get into a little bit of your own personal involvement, like you'd mentioned that this has been going on for a decade and a half now. So, how long have you personally been involved with this festival?
I have actually been involved with it not very long because I first got involved as an artist last year. I took part of Antigonight as an artist. I did a weaving performance on Main Street. And we got to talking, and then I was working in the arts in Antigonish throughout the year. And then this year they just asked me if I would like to be the artistic director. And I think it's a great festival. It's such a great crowd draw, and it's such a nice way to activate the festival that I was super interested, and I definitely wanted to get involved. So I'm this year's artistic director, and next year I'm sure they're gonna have someone great again. And I think it's also nice to kind of have a different vision for each year's festival to keep it interesting.
And now with that kind of a transition, I'm curious to like did you get to keep up with the creative artistic side while you're doing the organization side? Like you didn't cancel out, so you had to drop one to do the other?
Um, in a way, I feel like doing the organization of the festival already feels so creative because you kind of have to like think about the theme and then think about what would fit with the theme, and then we do like a submission process. There's an open call and people can submit their artworks, and then we have to decide like what goes well together, and then imagine like where in Antigonish we're going to place it. And then it's kind of nice to think like, oh, this would be nice by the river, and then these two projects kind of work together and stuff like that already feels so creative. So
Hmm.
I don't feel like I had to kind of let go of anything. In a sense, I feel like I get to like learn a new way of being creative. Yeah, I really like that.
It's an amazing perspective to have on that because I know some people it kind of brings the fun out of it, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe if it was something that you did forever, or if it really cut into your other activities, that might create the bitterness part. But
Mm-hmm.
seems like everyone has real positive attitude towards this project, and just overall, it seems like you're gearing up for nice vibes for the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it really exciting also to give these opportunities for artists too, because we have most of the artists are from Nova Scotia, but I think we have someone coming from New Brunswick, but then also just from Antigonish locally. Like it's really nice to have this mixture of artists and to give them this opportunity to showcase their talents and interact with the public and just have this space to do their projects. That for me is really exciting, as if I was performing myself or something like that.
I know on the East Coast, especially, I mean, I'm biased because in my limited life experience, it's been mostly East Coast living. But
Mm-hmm.
I know we really seem to have a passion for supporting local, and that's not just from a retail perspective. It definitely carries on into the arts. That's why I'm able to
Mm-hmm.
have a show like this that focus on so many independent artists that are out there these days. So I thank you for doing what you do, and to the whole organization for having such an event, because it is really important for the local artists to have a place to showcase as well. Because it's one thing for the public to want to support them, but if they can't find them, then that support's not going to be there. So I know these opportunities are kind of rare for a lot of people. Like they might only get out that one time a year in front of the public. So it's very
That's right.
important, and hopefully you guys continue on many years into the future.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think it's a great event, and it's nice to have these kind of events kind of outside of Halifax too, just kind of spread it across the province.
Yeah, absolutely. When we centralize things too much, then it kind of it waters it down to the point that like you're only going to have the same people at every event too. So
Mm-hmm.
it is good for the different regions within the province to be able to perform and have these showcases and display their wares out there for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, for anyone that's still with us right through to the end of the interview, the festival is September 13th, 14th weekend.
That's right.
And so I'm sure if you drive downtown Antigonish, you'll immediately find what's happening down there. And I would assume that any shops that are open at the same time are very aware of the touristy pull of getting people downtown too. So I definitely recommend a drive up for anybody that's in the region. And I wish you guys best of luck for your festival weekend.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully we talk again soon.